Got a good episode today with these Russell boys here. I'm gonna turn and say, hey, you got Joe and BR. These boys here, these are some I talked about we was gonna have some Piney veterans on here. This is some of my veterans. So they got some good stories to entertain us with today. So we'll get started. Word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, God, thank you for this day. Lord, I ask that you just be with this time with our friends as we reminisce, and Lord, Lord, let us be about your business today, Lord, and I thank you for everything you've done, what you're going to do for us. And I thank you most of all for your son dying on the cross for our sins, and we may be able to accept him and go to heaven. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
All right, so we're going to get right into some stories. BR said he's got a good one to lead us off with, so here we go, BR.
All right, then. I remember way back, I don't know how old I was, but I remember living down the old place down on the old Bono Road. And I remember one time, it was raining, and my mother, I don't remember this, but my mother told me. So anyway, I was rocking out in a rocking chair out there, and my mother come out and said, now you need to get in the house. You don't need to be out here just raining, and you go to rock off the porch and kill yourself. And she went back to the house, and she said she come out later on, and I wasn't on the porch. And she looked down, and I done slipped off the porch. And she come down there then, and she said she come down and looked at me there, and I looked up at her, and I said, Mama, see, it didn't kill me.
Didn't rock plumb off the porch, did you?
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
Oh, how old are you?
I'm 85, born December the 17th, 1939.
85. What about you, Joe? How old are you?
87. October 10, 1937.
What about that?
Anyway, I remember one time that my Uncle Tom, he stayed with us, Tom Simpson.
Yeah.
He chewed tobacco and he was in that swinging. And I can remember, I don't know, I must have been 5, maybe 6 years old before I started school. And I watching him chew that tobacco and spit, and I said, Uncle Tom, give me a chew of that. And he said, oh, no, Lord, no, it'll make you sick. I said, oh, come on, Uncle Tom. And I kept on aggravating him until he said, I won't give you a chew of this. If it makes you sick, I'm going to kick your butt off this porch. Anyway, he gave me a chew, and boy, I lit in on it. I chewed, and man, I did get swimmy-headed, but I didn't let on because I knew. I knew it'd kick me off,
Yeah.
So those times are, on the mailman. He always come off the hill down there, crawl up. I'm looking at the New Sentinel. Well, I guess the Journal then, I don't know. Then we had a funny paper in there. And I always kept up one section across there, and I couldn't wait till the next day to see what happened, And a lot of time like that, and I remember Tom R. Russell. That's Ole and Wilburn's daddy. I remember him, he worked at Alcoa. He walked all the way over to the main road, or over Warren Road, caught the Alcoa bus that come out at 8 o'clock at night. He caught that bus and rode it in. I can remember things like that. I remember an old store building down there on the corner. Garland Fag and them lived in there. I guess sometime later on, and I can remember they was in there and lived in there. And then later on, I think Nolan Rollins' family, James Rollins, I think they lived there before they moved that house in their grandpa's house, so they lived right next to it there. I remember that, which now is on Bishop Road, and Bill Bishop lives in it.
Oh, that's the house?
That's the same house.
Oh, that's cool.
Up there, yeah. So I remember that. And I remember picking up a lot of rock. We built that, or we did, and I helped my brother here. We picked up a lot of rock, built that rock wall all the way around the house. And even the garage down there was out of rock. if you'll remember, out there next to the funeral home, there's a house out there. It's a rock house.
Yeah.
It come from Piney out there. Come from Metal Hill. That's all it was. 4 acres of rock.
Yeah. We got plenty of rock here,
Absolutely,
Patty.
yeah.
I remember, I don't know how old I was. I must have been in about the, maybe third, fourth, or fifth grade. Don't remember, but I do remember this. I wasn't old enough to know what a dollar bill was from a $50 bill or a $100 bill. I just seen one, and I thought it was $1.
Yeah.
So my uncle Tom Simpson used to live with us out there at the old place that we just sold, and but anyway, he stayed there before he was married. So anyway, there at mother and them used to have apples. You know, they'd get apples at Christmas time.
Oh,
They'd
yeah.
put them up under his bed. You know, they know I wouldn't get them. You know, a lot of times Tom would be up in there in the bed. You know, and I'd sneak around there and crawl up under the bed. You know, and get an apple or two out there. You know, and I think I woke him up when I was going back out or something. Anyway, a few days later there, he caught on to it. You know, I crawled up on there, you know.
Sneaking them apples out there.
Yeah, and I was getting them apples out there, and Tom heard me, and he slapped his hand down and hollered at me, and this scared me to death. And everything. But anyway, after that, I remember looking in a hat box. You know, I was kind of sneaky back then, you know. But anyway, I remember looking in a hat box. They had a little, dresser, and they had a hat box up on top. I remember looking in there and I seen a bill in there, and I thought it was just $1 bill. So I got it. So I took it to school with me. Well, when I took it to school with me, there were men, 2 more boys. I don't remember exactly what their last name was now. It's been a long time. But we took that money, and I was passing it around. Them kids over there, I was passing it around. They give it back to them. I don't remember what it was either. But anyway, we went out, when they let out of school there at dinner time or sometime or another, we went out Mulder Jaws' store. That's when he had that old store. We went out there, you know, and we went in, and I just thought it was $1. But anyway, we bought us a cap pistol piece. And I think we got just one box of cherries. I remember eating them on the way back to school. But we got us a cap pistol piece and headed to the school. Boy, we was snapping them pistols like we was playing cowboy at one another. We was tickled to death. But when I got to but anyway, Boulder had, we bought stuff, he give me back a bunch of money. And I didn't know what that was, but come to find out it was a $50 bill.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, and I thought it was $1 bill. So he had to give me back, I don't know what he was doing, give me back all this money. But about the time I got to school, sometime or another, Boulder called Dad and them and told him I'd come out to the store with a $50 bill. And then from here on, I don't know what happened. They must have found out that Tom had one in the or something. Anyway, Joe, he tried to take it away from me to give back to him what money I had, change and stuff. He tried to take it away from him and give it back to them. But anyway, when I got home, boy, I tell you what. Oh man, Dad, he wore me completely out. And I went to crying and I said, well, Joe tried to take it away from me. He got a whooping too. But he was only trying to help.
Joe, you just trying to help. You got a whooping too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Well, you know, I remember Moeller said to you 2 boys out here at the store, he thought it was me and one of them other boys. It wasn't me. And, you know, I always kind of felt hard against Moeller, you know, for saying it's me when I was innocent. Boy, like he said, when we got home, Mother had to call him off. He had a back stick. And I mean, he was wearing us out, man. I mean, Mother had said, that's enough. That's enough.
You're a bit used nowadays.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, with a backer stick.
Yeah, man, I tell you what, that was something else.
Clarify that. A backer stick is actually a tobacco stick that they use to put tobacco on to hang in the barn.
Yeah.
It's tobacco, you know.
Yeah.
We call backers.
I hear you, I do too.
Yeah.
All right then, I've got nothing here about when I went to prison. First time I went to prison. You know, back then I used to be kind of, you know, I got with wrong crap really.
Where'd you go to prison at, BR?
Huh?
Where'd you go to prison at?
A Peach House. and everything. But this was another time. But now this time here, I was a teenager. I was 17 years old. When this other boy, I don't forget what his name is, but it happened in Little City. And I was 17, and me and him was running around there, and it was 16th of December. We stole the car. Back then, you know, you just walked up there, and the people didn't lock the doors. Most back then, it's an old car. It's one of them kind that you just push button starter. Didn't have to have a key. We just took the tinfoil out of a cigarette pack, stuck it up in there, and where the switch is, till you looked at the gas hand go over, and you knowed it was on.
Yeah.
So then we just push a little push button, and everything, the steering wheel wasn't locked, so we just drove off. So we driving down through, and we passed Loudon, went through Philadelphia, Sweetwater, and down in Athens. I was driving, and we stopped at red light. And when we did, police pulled over the side of us. It was about 11:30 at night. So anyway, he pulled us over there, you know, and I pulled over. Anyway, he asked us, you know, about the driving license and stuff, you know. And anyway, I said, I hadn't got any. And then he said, what about restoration? I said, I ain't got none of that either. You know, and he said, I can't. Anyway, he got to talking to us, and they arrested us. Both took us to jail. Well, come to find out, I had to make a telephone call. And they asked me what my name was. I said, Bill Russell. You know, like that, changed it off. And when they went to checking it there, said we found out that's not your name. So that's your dad's name. You give your dad's name. And everything. I said, well, you supposed to bet there. I'm trying to get out of this, you know. Anyway, what happened later on there, they arrested us whenever I got out of jail, you know, I'd set my hearing. Well, they sent me to reform school because I was 17, but that next day I was 18. See, it happened on the 16th, my birthday's on the 17th. So I was 18 when they tried me, but when they caught me, I was, 17. I was a teenager. So I went to reform school for 4 months. Anyway, when I was in reform school, you know, everybody in there is trying to get this and that off of you, you know, cigarettes and stuff like that, you know, a lot of little gambling going on in there, you know. You didn't have much money and everything like that, you know. But I remember Sheriff Freeman Russell, he's one that took me down there, drove me down there, you know. So when he did, he gave me a dollar. I remember that. He gave me $1 and a pack of cigarettes. Well, when I went in the office, in there and everything there, first thing he asked you, everything there in your pockets. Well, I threw the $1 and a pack of cigarettes up there, that's all I had, I reckon. I didn't have nothing else. And all this and that, you know, and we got through there, they locked us up, and I said, what about my money and cigarettes? They said, you don't have that in here, you don't have that. So they took that from me, you know, and everything. But anyway, I stayed in there 4 months, and while I was in there, now it's hard to believe, now you're talking about abuse. This would be abuse nowadays. They caught me smoking in the wrong place, see, and when they do, first time, you get 10 licks. Now how they whoop you is unbelievable. They got a big old long paddle as long as a baseball bat, but it's flattened out, you know, and it's got pennies taped on it. And everything. And what to do, they get you, they put you up in the corner, and they set a chair down, and you got to grab a hold of the bottom of what do you call it, cross thing on the chair? You grab a hold of that right there, you bend over and grab a hold of it. One of the men's pulling your pants tight, while the other stand back there like that. And whenever I got to looking at him, he draws back, I got to look, to turn your head back the other way. Like that. When he draws back, he swung and hit me just like a person swinging at a ball bat. A ball.
Good golly.
I mean, every time he hit me, the cheer scoop. And I ended up in the corner. And because he gave me 10 licks, and I tell you what, every time he'd hit me, I'd raise up and go to crying. You know,
I bet.
About 2 licks there, I felt back there, and I said, oh, my butt's a bleeding. You know, and everything. And he said, well, if it ain't, it will. So anyway, they give me the 10 licks, you know, kind of slow, you know, and you're talking about hurting. Now when they get through there, they take you up to the little hospital. You know, you get up in the corner and drop your britches, and they check your rear. And if I, but you know, I was sore back there and it was hard for me to sit down on the stool.
I bet.
But anyway,
Lord have mercy.
that 4 months lasts a long time, but I got 4 different kinds of whoopings while I was in there them 4 months, and that's the longest 4 months I had ever seen. It seemed like 4 years. But anyway, I straightened up on that when I got out for a little while, but that was it right now. I'll let Joe tell one there.
Lord have mercy. Now, BR, that getting whooped with a stick like that'd make you think about smoking in the right place next
That's
time.
right, that's right. You know,
Sound like they had to give you a few more, though, to get you attention.
well, seemed like, when I got that, and the next time it didn't hurt as bad.
Yeah.
But it's still, you know, you'd have them blisters, they big blisters back there.
Got some calluses on the hind end.
Yeah, I mean, they got tough on that 4th whooping I got there. It didn't hurt as bad,
Man.
you know.
Lord
but
have
I'll tell
mercy,
you
that's
what, I mean,
abuse.
Yeah.
well, that would be bad abuse, you know. Well,
Yeah.
you can't even whoop one now,
Oh, yeah.
especially with a big old long paddle like that with the pennies wrapped around.
I remember going to Jackson starting school down there. I was 7-year-old. I had to wait till I was 7. But my birthday is in October. School started in September, then after Labor Day. So I had to wait another year to start, which is okay, you know. I was 7-year-old and went to school there. Miss Earl Simpson. Herb Simpson's wife was my teacher. Sweet lady, you know. I remember sitting up there trying to tell time. She'd put back then just a fat clock up there and she'd move a hand around and you'd tell what time it was. And we had to say, you know, our ABCs, and then we always had said the Pledge of Allegiance in the morning. That was the first thing we done morning. We went to school, you know,
Oh, yeah.
which was good. And also we had read some Bible verses, I think. I remember that. But I went to school down there until I was in the 4th grade. And then Dad, you know, I was telling you about living there at Virginia Thompson's place, and where she's at now. And that was 4 acres. Grandpa lived up on Bishop Road, which he had 40-acre farm up there. So he and Dad traded places. I don't know how it went down, but anyway, they swapped places or traded, and put me and BR to work on that 40-acre farm. So I was in the 5th grade when I went out to Davis. Of course, as soon as I got out there, they tried me out for baseball. I
Right?
remember Ed Estes and some of them older guys. Ed and who else was out there that I remember? I think Herb Akins, some of those older guys, you know. 7th grade. I can remember our Mr. Dutton, who was her teacher. He got drafted in the Korean War, 1950. And they sent Miss Williams out there. She was older like lady and had a kind of a limp and everything. And she had a big long hickory, I'm telling you what. She'd have you to go get a hickory. If it didn't satisfy you, she'd have you get another.
You didn't have to take them leaves off of it, did you?
So anyway, back then we had outside toilets, you know.
Yeah.
And us the boys always smoked. We all smoked then, you know. I was outside up there and I come in a little late and she was standing behind the door. As soon as I opened that door, she come down across my back there. Lord have mercy there. I'd have cried in hell, but you know, being in the 7th grade, you was about 14-year-old, I guess. No, 13. And 13-year-old. And but them was days. I mean, she would take those girls and get them up on the stage. Take that hickory, and I remember 2 girls. I don't think I already called her name. She would whip them 2 girls, and her dress tail flying up, and she just wire them out, you know.
Lord mercy.
And now that would be abuse.
Yeah.
They throw her out of jail. Back then, I didn't get to play football because that was in the fall of the year and we had tobacco. An acre and 7/10 tobacco. Dan was saying now, I guess you can play baseball, it's in the spring.
Right.
So I did. I went and played, went out for baseball. I got to play 4 years. The only reason I got to play as a freshman, we didn't hardly have enough to play.
Right.
So anyway, I got to play then. I think baseball might have started in 1950 then. I'm not sure about that, but anyway, it went till 1959. The year after Ray Howard and Jimmy Hugh Watts was seniors. I think that was the last year they had it. But we had a lot of fun then, and I lettered all 4 years because, like I said, the freshman year, well, I had to play to have enough, you know.
Right.
I mean, that's just one of those things. But anyway, I enjoyed some good times playing ball. And we rode in cars then going to the game. I mean, we didn't ride no bus or nothing. Everybody jumping, FSO, BSO, you know, front seat outside, you know, all that stuff. We rode with the coach. And some of the seniors, I mean, they drove, you know, some of the seniors on the upper class. But I remember those years, man, we had some pretty good teams. We went to one of our senior year. We went to the regional down in Chattanooga. And I think one of the Chattanooga team beat us down there. But that was some years I remember. I'll tell some other things.
Who was the coach back in? Who was your coach?
Marvin Mitchell. He was football coach, and baseball coach, and whatever.
He's coach of everything.
Oh, yeah. And then later on, we got, other coaches. But anyway, I'll stop there and go ahead.
Joe, y'all don't know, Joe loves football so much that he carried the chains down there for the Loudon football program. How many years did you do that, Joe? Over 20 years. He carried them chains down there. So, every football game I can ever remember growing up, Joe Russell was on the sideline down there carrying them chains.
A lot of language down there, boy, that you want to hear his own visitor side, you know.
So, hey, that made me think you used to tell that story about getting in trouble with your mom and dad. I remember when I was little, I was over here on the backside of this farm right here beside the church.
Yeah.
And I was with Papa and we was mowing hay out of the field there. And I don't know, he put me driving tractor when I was just a little feller. I was, as soon as I could reach the pedals on it, he had me raking hay. So we was raking hay, and I guess I raked it the wrong way or something. And he come running, he got off that, he had that square baler, and he come running off that thing, wink, flagged me down. Come here. I got over there, and I jumped off that tractor. He said, I've told you 3 times not to do it like that, whatever I was doing wrong. And he said, I'm gonna whoop that hind end. And I was scared to death of my papa.
Yeah.
And he reached down there and I didn't know what he was getting, but come find out he wrung him off a big handful of sage grass. Well, I didn't care. I took off a run and I run all the way out Simpson Road back to Mamaw. I left him and both tractors out there. Well, he come in to eat lunch and he just laughed. He said, Lord have mercy. He said, you thought I'd had a 10-foot pole out there chasing that boy. All I had was a handful of sage grass. I didn't care what it was. I didn't want it.
There you go.
All right, go ahead, B.R.
All right, there. I remember in school there, he talked about there a while ago. My teacher was Miss Axley. Boy, I tell you, I hated her. You know how kids is. I mean, I was mean. When I went to school, you know, I didn't go to learn. Every time I get grade card, it's all else. Nothing. It's all else. I failed every grade. I go to play. I didn't go to learn. Anyway, I'd take rubber bands and stuff like that, you know, and I'd go where and I'd go to shooting them, you know, rubber bands and stuff like that, you know. So somebody told on me and the teacher had me up there beside of her.
Lord
Well, I
have
wouldn't
mercy.
be shooting them, you know.
Yeah.
But I was up there and I still had a rubber band, but I'll find out some more. So I got one out, and you know, I couldn't shoot over the bed she was sitting in, you know, I couldn't shoot over. So I'm down here like this right here, you know, and what she was talking to me, I had a rubber band down here like this, and I was still shooting them under the table. I could still hit them under the table. You know. And a lot of times I put little tacks up on the girls' seat, get them sat down and all. That's mean, wasn't it? One incident there, Miss Ashley, every time I do something, she'd have to holler at me all the time. Well, she made me stay in after school. And right, I must not, whatever it was, I must not do that or something or other. I don't know how many times.
Had right sentences.
But I must have been home, Dad, after school, I got to get home. You know, Dad he's up on the hill sprouting just to have something to do, I reckon.
Yep.
But anyway, I was in there, you know, and she kept me in out of school a bunch of times. But at one incident, she kept me in a long time, and I got kind of mad. You know, I went down the hall, I jumped up, went down the hall, I said, "You dad burn helper, you." She said, "Oh, what'd you call me?" I said, I got to go home, milk the old helper. Dad, them's waiting on me. And the cows down there. You know, well, when I got home, Bob said, you better go on up there. He said, he's looking for you. He's late. When I went up there, Dad, boy, he done had a big sprout ready for me. Boy, he wore me out that sprout till he pulled his belt off. You know, and I was trying to fight back with him, I couldn't do nothing. Anyway, he hit me with that belt, I'd grab it, and I'd get away from him, something he'd kick me in the rear. You know, and all this now. I'll tell you, back then, it'd be abuse now, that's for sure. You know? But that one incident, I'll never forget that.
Hey y'all, hope you're enjoying the new podcast so far. Look forward to many, many more episodes, and glad that I could be part of the first one. If y'all don't mind, jump over to Pine Life on YouTube, check out some of my hunting content, and as always, God bless.
Well, like I said, we raised tobacco, and I raised tobacco when I was working, you know, and I remember one summer, July or August, I had Travis and Sean over chopping out weeds out of tobacco. It was hot, it was sweating, I was sweating. The weeds had a roll. One of them said, "I gotta go to the bathroom." I said, "I do too." I said, "Well, hurry back." So they took off. I finished my row out, got me another row and coming on out, and I thought, man, they ought to be back by now. So I went over there. You know what they's doing? Watching cartoons.
Laid up watching cartoons.
Yeah. I got behind them, and every time they'd take a step, I'd kick them in the butt. Every time. You know, not hard, just kick them.
Yeah.
But they didn't laugh about that then, but they do now, you know. But
Left you hanging over there.
yeah, they said, "Well, we know how to work.
Yeah.
We know how to work." And so I said, "Well, that's the reason I had you over. I wanted you to know how to work, and you had to work for a living."
Right, try it.
You know.
Try it. Can't learn that sitting there watching cartoons.
That's right. But that was the funny part right there. I'll tell you what, that was something else. And
What about that part, brother, we had Sean scattering them sticks through there. He gave me 2 or 3 sticks, and he didn't have them up straight. He was tearing the leaves off as he was walking through there. You know, and he come back out. Joe got on to him about something other. And Sean said, "What you want to raise this old backhoe for?" Joe said, "Well, get money." Sean said, "Well, you get money without raising this old backhoe."
I said, "You want old Santa Claus to come see you, don't you?"
Yeah.
He said, "Yeah, but you don't have to raise this old tobacco." You know. But I enjoyed, you know, back then when I was able and young growing up. With Jim Nicholson down there on the highway.
Yeah.
I remember one time, I used to go there on Sunday and just sit and talk to him, you know. He'd chew tobacco all the time. I said, "Uncle Jim," I called him Uncle Jim. I said, "You chew much tobacco?" And he said, "No, just eat it," he said. And he said, "I want you to plow my corn over up on Graveyard Hill, Bert Simpson's, you know."
Yeah.
That's when that place was real big, plumb up to the edge there. Of course, and now I believe they took some of the graveyard and bought some of that field down through there. And anyway, he said, "Now, I want you to come down here on Sunday and I'm going to tell you about Kate and Tuck." 2 mules he had, their name was Kate and Tuck. He worshiped them mules, I tell you what. He said, now, I won't tell you how to do when you take them out for lunch, what to do. He said, we'll put muzzles on them where they can't eat the corn when they turn, you know, they'll think about all the corn. We don't want to do that. I said, okay, Uncle Jim. So we had this cultivator where you rode it, you know, and sat on it. You rode it there and kept it, you know, in between the rows, yeah. But, you know, I remember plowing that field over, you know, and I plowed it over and got it. But them, them mules eat that corn right through them, but they take a bite of corn, you know, and I got tired pulling on them, jerking them, and so I just let them eat it. So back in them days, everything was so quiet and peaceful, you know, you could even leave your doors open, nobody bother anything, you know. Everybody here was poor, nobody had anything. Mother always had chickens and a cow she milked, and we churned, and in fact, I got the old churn out there at the house, and I got two of them, one that you turn with a crank, and then there's one that you just up and down, you know. But anyway,
Back in the good old days.
yeah, back in the good old days, we had Mr. Miller lived across the hill over there. I don't know, you don't probably don't remember him. That Mr. Miller, he went to Mountain Nine. And old fellow, and kind of humped back, short. He'd walk across the hill to get milk and butter from Mother that raised. She had a cow, and she'd stand him selling milk, eggs, butter, whatever he wanted, you know. I can see him now walking across the hill over there getting that, and then in those days, that was the days that, you know, you look back on and say, boy, that was some great times.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't have much, but nobody had anything.
Right.
You know, 'cause everybody's poor, you know, lived out here in Piney. But,
You know, HB still, he growed up to be the same as he was when he was a kid doing things. But anyway, we went in there to draw the water. And so it was back in the winter because they had a fireplace going. All they had that wood going, it was hot. Anyway, Joe was sitting, I was all sitting up next to the fireplace there. All at once there, HB grabbed Joe's cap and threw it in the fireplace. You know, I don't know if I done it or who grabbed it, but we got it out of there, you know. And I never will forget that. And Jim got all over him about something other there, but I don't really know what happened as did you.
no. I don't
There wasn't
know.
no fight broke out over it, was it?
No, but I remember him grabbing his cap, you know, that's somebody HB to do, you know.
Oh, yeah. I heard rumor tell out here in Piney a long time ago. It ain't been too many years ago, but a few years ago. There used to be a feller that had a Murray lawnmower with a CB on it and dual antennas. And he would be reported seen pulling a John boat down the road with a Murray lawnmower to go fishing.
Yeah, I guess it did. I guess it sounds like me.
And he had a real unique house down there he built.
Yeah, I'd like to tell one more thing, you know. It's about prison. One time, it was time I was about James Earl Ray. You know, everybody remembers James Earl Ray. But anyway, I was down there and I done made parole. You know, I was about to get out. And so they put me in the guard's dining room. So I was in the guard's dining room, you know, that's where I help wait on the table stuff and take the guards, you know, at dinner time, take their food over and sit on the table and everything, you know, and I'd always put a little tip box up on the table. And knowing all the time I put the tip box up there, they wasn't supposed to put no money in to start with. We wasn't supposed to have no money in there, you know, but I put one up there. For some reason, but what happened, one time in there, I've been in there, you know, maybe a week or two, they always make julep and homebrew stuff, you know. So one time that guy talking about said, hey, sample this and see if it's ready. You know, see if it's ready to take off. You know, I took a little stuff of it. I said, well, I can taste a little alcohol in it, but it's still too sweet. It needs to work on. And they had it up in the heating vent that goes all through the things, you know. Well, as I was checking out. I was checking out about 30 minutes after I took that drink. And I wasn't paying much attention about the thing, but as you walk out, you come through one gate, you know, you go in this gate and they'll close that gate while you're in, and then they open another gate and you come on out. Before you go on out into the population to go to your block, you know, where
Right.
you sell, you had to hold your hands up and guard shook you down when you come out. Well, I had my holding up like that, you know, and that guy back right behind me, he said, turn around here a minute. I turned around, he said, blow in my face. I said, blow in your face? I said, why? He said, well, blow in my face. I went, he said, that's what I thought. I thought I smelled that. We've been smelling that smell coming through them vents in here. He said, he said, that's that there homemade stuff. And
Yeah,
you've been
julep?
drinking, huh?
Julep?
Yeah, it's julep, they call it. Said, you better drink it. I said, hey, I ain't drunk nothing. I said, I ain't drunk no alcohol or nothing. I ain't had nothing. I don't drink, or I ain't seen nothing. I didn't know they made it in here. Didn't know they had it. He said, well, that's what it is. He said, I've smelled that smell before and everything, you know. And I said, well, the only thing I'll eat a bowl of chili or stuff before I left. He said, that ain't chili, I smell it. And everything like that. But anyway, I went around there.
He done on to you.
I went around and talked to the warden. Warden there, they told him about it and all this and that, you know. Warden, he kind of got mad and everything. You know, because the warden was mad at me anyway, because one time before this, I found a bunch of them leeches, what is them, gets on the bed bugs, it gets on your bed. I found some and put them in a matchbox. I put them in a matchbox and I went and I told what? I said, I need to change cells. I said, these things eat me up. I said, what? And I said, I told what? These bugs here. I opened it up there and they went everywhere. Oh, he got all over me about that. The warden did and everything. But now, when I went around there this time for that julep, they gave me 30 days in the hole. So, 30 days in the hole was over in the white building. They call the white building, that's where all the death row people sells at. The electric chair and everything. So while I was in there doing the 30 days, they let me out for trustee, you know, to get the mop and broom and give it to everybody in them cells on death row. So I was in there, you know, and I done that. I'd take and put them a broom in and they sweep it out. Then I'd hand them a mop and they'd mop it. But there's mop, I'd put the broom in this other cell over here, hand it to them and they'd get it mop out. I got to the last one there, and it's James Earl Ray. They brought him in that day. They put him in there, you know. Well, I went there, I said, well, we got a new one here. Like, he just said, we didn't talk much. He's quiet.
Yeah.
James Earl Ray is quiet.
Read a
Anyway,
lot, didn't he? Didn't you read?
Anyway, he asked me, I said, is there anything I can do for you? Well, I always asked him about book stuff. He said, yeah, get me a book. I said, what do you want? He said, well, just get me one. Like it, you know, and I went over and picked him out a book or something. You always want to read. Not just quiet and want to read. So anyway, I done that there, you know, in a time or two there. And so anyway, that's where I first met him. And there, you know, when they first locked him up. So anyway, years after that, I got out, and here I went back in for something else again. And now he was still in there, and he's down at Brushy Mountains. You know, and I was in there when he tried to escape. He escaped there, and they found him, you know,
Right.
and everything. So that's just a story I want to tell. I was in there when they brought Jeremy Earl Ray
Yeah.
in the prison, yes.
That's pretty interesting, BR.
Yeah.
Well, I spent over 25 and 30 years of my life wasted.
Yeah.
In and out of prison, you know. But I straightened up.
That's right.
I straightened up and got a new heart.
Yep.
Jesus, yes. Got Jesus in my heart now.
Yep.
Wayne Eady, they had a revival, Chad, and him. And there's some old preachers outside Chad. And we went there a few nights. And then on the last night, it was closed. It was the last night of revival. And I was standing, me and Wayne standing back there, and they had us all stands at the church about over. Anyway, I was standing there and they was singing, what was they having that invitation. And they were singing, you know, once something hit me. Something hit me. Well, it had been all them nights had been there. But
Well, he'd asked you, didn't he? Didn't he ask you if you wanted to go up? You know,
No, it's what happened. I was standing there and what just kept hitting me. I just felt like I just had to go. I told Wayne, I said, Wayne, I'm gonna have to go. He said, get on up there. I guess, so I went up there, and when I did, you know, they prayed for him and everything there, you know, and when they did, Holiday, I raised up and somebody grabbed me, and I grabbed me and lifted me plumb up there, and it was Bobby Wagner.
Yeah.
Bobby Wagner, he picked me up there and got me, but boy, I tell you what, you talk about a load off of me. When I was walking back to my seat, it felt like I was walking just on air. I was up on the floor.
Yep.
It felt so good. It just felt so good.
Had that burden took off.
Oh, yeah. I'm telling you that. I'm so happy. So happy. So glad that I straightened out. You know, if I hadn't straightened out, I hadn't went that night, I figured I wouldn't be here today.
Right.
I figured I wouldn't be here today.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah,
Praise the Lord.
Amen.
And Joe, you're a deacon here at Valley View, ain't you?
Yeah.
How long's that been going on for?
I got out of service in 1958, and of course I went and come back to church here. You know, that's where it's always been. And that time, Woolsey was leaving, and Tommy Tedrow come in. You know, and we had they was, I guess. That was must have been around 1960 that they kept on me, said, you ever think about serving as a deacon? I said, not really. I mean, I'm pretty young. They said, well, that's what we need. We're going to have to get some younger guys coming on because we older guys getting older, and it'll be long, somebody's going to have to pick a mantle up, Now, he kept on to me, and finally I agreed to it, and I've got over our house on the wall when I was ordinated, ordination. I can't remember what it was, 1962, I think. Seemed like somewhere along there, I'm not sure. I got it on the wall over, and everything, so. That's been a few years ago.
Yep.
And of course, I know back then those older deacons, like I can remember Virgil Simpson and Warren Robinson and Billy Presley. I think I only had 3 then, best I remember. That's all I can remember, man, and I made 4. But anyway, they told me, said, you just kind of sat back and watch. We'll do what needs to be done. And I said, okay, yeah, okay. And as the years went on, they wanted to build a shed here so we could have something for July or something like that, And I told them, I said, I need to say something right here, I think. I said, you all just thinking about now, I said, in July, let's build something we can use all year. I mean, So I put a few words in like that, and Billy Presley was for it too. I mean, and of course they hadn't thought much about that, spend that much money, build something like that. So finally we agreed to build it. We built half of it, and then this part over here we built on later.
Right.
As we grew and everything, Now we use it all the time for different things, which has been a blessing,
Oh, yeah.
down through the years. Other people use it too that want to have birthday parties or get married and stuff,
Yep.
and everything. So,
And that's all because you opened your mouth that day.
yeah.
Or it just been shed.
Probably. But I thought, man, this the shed here. I remember going into services, either going when I got out of school, going to school or going into service. I thought, well, I just barely made it out of high school. Probably can't make it in college,
Right.
So I thought, well, I'm gonna can't get a job unless, because you're, at an age where they're gonna draft you. So I wasn't hard. I was 18, but 2 other guys, we decided to go down and volunteer for the draft. We went and took basic together. That was Doyle Pruitt and Reed Stamey. We went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, stayed down there for about 2 weeks, and then they decided they'd send us on to Fort Knox, Kentucky, from the sands of the hills. So we got up there, and as soon as we got off that bus, he was some Puerto Rican there. He was cussing like a sailor. I mean, and everybody was scared. I mean, that's just 18-year-old kids,
Yeah.
We
Getting
had one
exposed
guy.
stuff you hadn't seen before.
Yeah. One guy was 35-year-old. I thought, what's that old man doing in here? Taking basic. Anyway, we got off and got in there. And they assigned us a place, barracks and everything. Give us some, we had to get our clothing we had to have, They were up to where they issued it out. Give it to it, they give it to it. You pulled out over here, they did one blocked outer in that, and it looked kind of bad. But anyway, I remember Joel Pruitt, he was in the squad right before me, PQR, yeah. And Reed was in the squad. We wasn't in the same squad together. Doyle had this guy that took ROTC. He was a black guy. Took ROTC together. I mean, he took it over there, and he thought he was good. They put him as squad leader, He was Doyle's squad leader. Every time they needed a detail, they'd say, Pruitt and Norton. Norton was a boy that lived up there around Knoxville somewhere. We was out on detail, I guess maneuver or something, all day long. And old Sarge said, don't want to catch anybody drinking any water. I'll tell you when to drink. We had our canteens on. Get out there and old Doyle, he reached around there and got him a little something. All right, soldier, pour it out. I seen you pour it out. He poured it in, go all day without any water. And we got back. We was hungry. You always hungry in there, man. I tell you what. Sarge told us, Mess Sarge, he said, don't catch nobody up at that PX tonight. Said, you guys go up there and fill up on that horse, you know what? We'll eat that good chow down the mess hall. Said, don't catch nobody up there. Man, we was out of cigarettes, hunger. Man, reading on the side to try it. We slipped in through the barracks around them. Had to go up steps, count to the PX. Went up there and guess who was standing in the door as we opened it? Old Sarge. He said, okay, man, I told you. On down to the orderly room, I'll be on down. But so we went ahead and got what we went after because we knew we'd had it. So we went down there and he said, come on up here to the mess hall. Went up there and there's this old galvanized can sitting outside. He went there and got some steel wool. He come out there and give us both piece of steel wool. I want these cans shining before you all quit. Okay, Sarge. So we laid in on them. Up and then during the night, someday they caught another old boy up there. He come out there and he said, you all can go, but I'm gonna let him stand guard over the rest of the night. So things like that, it was a lot of harassment, it's all it was.
Yeah.
See how much you could take,
Yeah.
and everything.
Back at, I don't remember now exactly what year it was. That Virgil Simpson store got broke into and burnt. Well, back at that time, I know, and what was we doing? Sitting out the back there cutting at that time. I don't remember. I know I was working in the back.
Yeah, I remember.
And I worked in the back of there, and so when I got through, I must have eaten up there before I went home. I don't remember that part, but I know I was so tired that when I got home, I laid down. I lived in an A-frame, and my bed was upstairs. So I laid down on the couch down there to rest. I would give out. I was tired. I was going to lay down there and rest a while before I went on up to bed and took me a shower and stuff, So anyway, when I was there, my ex-wife and my son come in. And my son said, Dad, let's go get into something. I said, son, I've been in something all day today. I've been out the back up there. And I said, I'm tired. I said, hey, I ain't going nowhere. I'm going to bed here in a minute, take my shower, go to bed. So anyway, he had some moonshine. He said, "He'll take you to drink this, it'll help you." You know,
That was David, wasn't it?
yeah.
Boy's dead.
My oldest boy, he's passed away now. He passed away. And anyway, he was born on February the 5th, 1964. And my daughter, she was born in 1965, Carolyn. And my youngest son, Robert, he was born in 66. But anyway, I was in there and said, "Take a drink of this moonshine here and help you." So I took a little drink of it. I didn't drink enough to feel it, you know. I just laid back down. I said, I'm gonna rest and all this and that, you know. Well, somehow or another, I went off to sleep. And when I woke up, about an hour or two later, I don't know what time it was. I don't remember how long I slept. But anyway, there wasn't nobody there. So I went on, took me a bath and went to bed that night. Well, the next morning or something other there, my ex-wife and my son come in carrying a bunch of stuff. I had a bunch of cartons of cigarettes, and my ex-wife had me a little cigar box with some change in it. You know, I said, "Where'd you get this at?" I said, "Don't worry about it. I get you know, and all this and that, you know." Well, come to find out, when I went back up to work on tobacco that day, somehow or another, somebody was, Jim Fagg, I think, he helped us, you know, and we must have been cutting tobacco.
Yeah, I guess it
Well,
was.
Jim Fagg, he was late, coming in. He said, I'd go up Burgers to get a pack of cigarettes. I said, "Boy, I tell you what, somebody broke in there last night and burnt the store and everything, you know." And then later on, they said, "They think it's you, Bill." I said, "Me?" I said, "Well, it's going around, it was you." They said, "Your ex-wife said you come in carrying a cigar box and handed it to her. See, it was turned right around. So
Yeah.
she knew what to say. And I didn't know nothing about nothing. You know." I said, "I went to work up there and all this and that." And a few days later, they had me charged for it. And so later on, when I went to court, my ex-wife got up there and she testified everything that happened because she knew what happened. Because she could spit it right out. I come in and they was there, and then I had them a cigar box, but it was turned around the other way. I did not know anything about nothing. But when I went to court down there, she got up testified against me, and here I am, never had a felony charge on me before. And they wouldn't believe a word I was saying, and all this and that, you know. And I don't know if I had anybody there to help me or not, besides my lawyer. I don't think there's anybody there testified that.
Well, you got framed then, didn't you?
Well, I got framed. What it was, they know they could to keep themselves out of the jail. I went to penitentiary for that. And you see, and everything, and Dad and all of them knows. They pretty sure knows that I didn't do that because I didn't have time to do all that.
Right.
And everything, because I was up there that morning, and Dad always said, since Peter got in there, he wouldn't have been here this morning.
Right.
So I was right back up there to help it on tobacco. You see, and I got praised for that. I wouldn't have done that time for somebody else.
Right.
So that's exactly what it is. You know, I've always heard, you know, what you sow, you weep, and all this and that, and eye for eye, tooth for tooth. So now my son, he passed away. Well, he was in prison. He got out. He got a disease, and he got out, and he passed away. My ex-wife, she moved off somewhere or another. I ain't seen her. Don't want to see her. But anyway, I don't hold no grudge against nobody. Since I got saved, Jesus Christ, my heart, I forgive it. I just forgot about it. Forget about it. It's in the past. I look towards the future.
That's right.
I'm ready.